Hi, I hope this is recording because I don't know did I push the right button or not. Um, this is your astrologer Kira, right from my park here near my house. This park is called Hyde Park, although it doesn't have anything in common with the Hyde Park in London, but we don't care. And this is my favorite spot to do my Sunday trainings. Right now we are at the beginning of the February, but these are somewhat odd and warm days. I wanted to tell you about my training routine because I have this very strong Mars. For many years I meant that I have Manglik dosha in Mars chart. This means somewhat bad position of Mars. However, lately, a few years ago, I found out that I have such a strong Mars that he cancels all other yogas, so he's so Manglik that he's considered not to be Manglik. In Vedic astrology, it's placed in Aries and in the 8th house, which represents Scorpio, and it makes all sorts of aspects. I don't care. So, let's do it. How did I begin my journey? Well, in I don't know 2007, I was so exhausted. I was very ill. I had very great autoimmune problems with my health, and then I came up and met with this Chinese doctor here in Belgrade, and he sold me some Chinese medicine, traditional, and this was those were the bags with the black Manchurian ants, and I had to eat those ants, and I did eat them. And he also sold me some little balls made from minerals, vitamins, and so on. And the moment he gave those things to me, I knew they were made by the medieval alchemical tradition, and I knew they will work. I was not sure for the ants. But by the way, he showed me one static exercise coming from Qigong. Until then, I only did yoga for 25 years. Before, I hated sports. I don't want to compete. I'm not the competing type, and I don't care about any type of sport. And I started doing standing qigong, and I did it and I did it and I cried while I did it. And then I started to become interested in qigong in general, so I found out some other exercises like Yi Jin Jing and the other one, and the 8 brocades, and all sorts of things. So I built it my practicing routine, and from 12 minutes standing, I made up to half an hour, and healing sounds exercises also. I made up to half an hour or almost 1 hour of qigong. Then I built my health again, and I felt great and strong and so on. And at the same moment, I was called by my local community to attend those free classes for women held very close to my apartment. And I said, oh yeah, why not? So I went there 2 or 3 times a week. We had fitness exercises. There were girls 15 years of age and women 75 of age, and all in between. And we did these things for free. We had our instructor, great lady, and we did this, I don't know, 8, 7 months, something like that. And then she said, I don't have enough time for this, but you and you, could you replace me, and could you two replace each other? So I was the one that was chosen with the other girl, young girl. So we always agreed which one will hold exercises, and when I did my exercises, I did them longer, and I asked them to do much harder, and I incorporated qigong and yoga parts in those exercises, and they hated me and they loved me. And many times when we entered the hall, I said, okay, lock the door. Whoever wants to get out, let her get out. The other girls or ladies will stand in, and no one will leave until we'll finish, lock the door. And they were furious. They hated me, cursed me, yelled at me, and so on, but none of them left. They loved me. It was a great time for us. At the same time, there were two girls who learned how to dance. They went to dancing classes, and I was so sad because long time ago it was my wish to start dancing and to learn how to waltz and tango and do salsas and cha-chas and rumbas and everything. And they were we had after usual exercises we had belly dance classes with them. So for 1 year I danced belly dance after usual fitness routines, and I loved this, not because just of the belly dance, but because every organ I have was put in the right place with the belly dance. And this is great therapy for women. And as I always say, the best therapy for women is not yoga, it's dancing. However you don't have to be a special dancer. Dance as you like, dance on the music you like, dance naked, dance with your clothes on, your heels, without heels. I don't care. Sit in your chair, sit in your wheelchair, just dance in your head and in your heart, because this is the therapy. Yoga is sattvic kind of exercise. Yoga is for the mainly for the men, and the men who will spend their lives like monks or scientists. Women should dance and men should fight. These are greetings coming from gunas. White guna for yoga and scientists and monks, and black guna, tamas guna for women, and red guna, protective and defensive guna for men. So, okay, let's do it further. I had my belly dance, I loved it, and I had my usual exercising class. And then I had to go through emotional trauma. My sadisati period started. Saturn approached my natal moon, and at the same time, Saturn make horrible opposition with Uranus. We all had to experience this aspect in some way or another. This started in 2008 and lasted almost until 2016. We had to heal our hearts. We had to be humiliated, and this was the case with me. I had to go through great emotional trauma, and I was humiliated because I was poor. I was below this person's expectations when it comes to status, not when it comes to education. He was very hurt by the fact I had higher education than him, but it all didn't matter. It didn't matter. He, this was one experience I had to go through, and my heart exploded. My heart was broken, and all I had was those exercises, and all I had was coming into the woods and doing qigong whenever I could, because in the meantime I was left without my job I did previously, and I really didn't have any money. And I started doing some small jobs and making some small money, and I was again ill and lonely and feeling bad and sad, and uh, those exercises and qigong were the only thing that helped me to pull through on the surface. At the same time, this was the fall, September of the 2009. I went to see about exercises during the winter season in our community place, and there was this young guy, very angry young guy without his shirt on, and he told me, we guys now took those rooms, and you women, you cannot use them. You will have to pay us, and you will have to clean this place, and we will determine when you will be able to come in. And I said, Bibi, you have to it doesn't I'm not allowing you to call me with my name because I could be a mother with you, and I'm not allowing you to talk with me without your shirt on. So dress yourself, you moron, and I won't clean for you and I won't pay for you, and goodbye. You cannot, no, you cannot do that. uh, and then I turned and I said, okay, now is the right time for me to go to dancing at last, because for 15 years I've been planning to go to dancing classes and I was so sad about it. And I found a school I loved, and then I went there time. I was so afraid, I was out of my mind. I took a book with me like a protection, so I stuffed my nose into this book and started to read until they are getting ready and everything. I didn't have dancing shoes, I didn't have anything, I didn't know anything, and I was 1 month late with the classes, so no one wanted to dance with me. And it was so sad. I was heartbroken at the time, standing against the wall. They all knew each other, they were all friends, and they were all having a great time. And I was just standing against the wall, holding the wall with my back in those days. And then one guy appeared. He's a motorcycle guy, old guy, and he couldn't walk on one leg because some guy in the car hit his motorcycle 1 month prior from this event, and he used the stick and he said, "You want to dance?" And I said, "Yeah." So we became great friends. I love him very much. I don't know, almost 10 years ago, he danced with my child. He never learned how to dance, but I don't care. Once my friend told me, "Why did you put your child to dance with him? He doesn't know how to dance." And I said, so doesn't she? She also doesn't know how to dance. They are having great time, so let them be. And he's a very great friend of mine, and I love him very much. He's an adventurous type of man, old man, but great man, doing motorcycle in Australia. Then he came back here. Then he drives a helicopter in Dubai and so on. Crazy type of guy, but I love him. And he was my first friend there. We did Vienna waltzing, and in the next 2 years I learned how to dance waltzes and foxtrots and standard tango and cha-cha and rumba, paso doble, salsa, and many dances more, and I filled my heart with the joy. And then after that I said, okay, I will come to those classes just for relaxation. I have to go further, beside the fact that I continued to do my qigongs and my exercises here in the woods on weekends. And then I tried to find what could be good fighting practice for me. At that time, I followed one guy from Canada. He was Orthodox priest in those moments, and he was related to Canadian headquarters of Sistema, and he uh, he had the career like a soldier, years and years of martial arts behind him, and so on and so on. A great guy, and I followed him because of his qigong knowledge. And then I found out from him that the best practices a woman can have, or any person can have, are doing integral martial arts. And the best in this world were Krav Maga, and which is Israeli art, and Russia Sistema. So you don't have just one type of exercise there or practice there or fighting. You have some parts leverage from Aikido, judo throwing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the ground. Then you have hitting and shooting and so on and so on, doing knives and swords and sticks and all sorts of weapons from Kali Eskrima, and so on and so on. So I decided to go to Krav Maga, or kapap here team. Kapap means on Israeli Krav Panim al Panim, fighting face to face. So I went there, and this was very interesting moment because I wasn't so afraid when I came there as much as I was when I came to my first dancing class 2 years prior. Uh, it was the winter time, February month, horrible cold time with snow and ice and everything. And this dojo was and still is in one small basement somewhere there. And in that moment, their electricity broke. And I know this is the sign because where I'm coming, the changes are coming. They didn't have any electricity and no heating at all, and I entered into this basement. I had some steps to go down there, and I looked at them, and there were 5 guys in the dark fighting like crazy with the steam coming out of their mouth and one candle burning, and I was out of my mind. For the next 2 years, those guys will become my great best friends. The coach I had is still my great friend. I love him very much, and we were a very interesting team because there are 7 guys and just like me, one like Snow White and 7 dwarfs. And we made all sorts of joke. I announced that guy one guy there to be my ex-husband, so I can quarrel and yell with him. And we had all sorts of philosophical and psychological conversation going on while we were fighting. But there was one thing, and yes, we had one team who had trainings before of us. This was his MMA team, and they did mainly boxing and hard hitting and so on. As Krav Maga, we had to learn some gentler ways how to fight with our opponents. We were better in gun shooting than them, and I always joked they're stinking smelly guys from MMA. We are nice secret agents from Krav Maga. And so on. And at one point, he changed some scheduling, and he mixed us with his MMA team. So my days turned out into boxing, 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 and endless boxing. And 2 times I got hit in my eye, and I got hit with his leg in my head. This was the lesson for me to protect my head. And the main problem there was that some guy was chasing me. Many times guys are chasing me on the streets, and I have very dangerous situations going on with me, even when I'm not dressed like a woman. When I'm dressed like a man, it doesn't matter. And at that point, I had one attack before, and I didn't have any experience. I just had my instinct, and I had the strength of a wolf inside of me, and I managed to defend me. But 11 years later, I was trained, and I realized that if this guy tries to pull me into his car, or if he tries to put me down on the ground because I'm in the short skirt and I'm in very high heels, I will be dead because no one wanted to do ground fighting with me on my usual trainings. They were all very embarrassed to do this. They were ashamed. They were afraid of me being a woman, of my body, or they were just simply afraid that this would turn out to be something erotic, and they didn't want to do that. We were friends because after the initial attraction, things settled, and we were all very great friends. And those guys have their own lives. I have my own life. We love each other greatly still. But this is the part they didn't want to do with me, and I said okay. Uh, Next time I have to do something else because my life depends on those moments. Later on, they did do ground fighting with me, but we did those things on mats. They did it greatly. They they agreed with the coach because I told him, but there were some problems with our dojo and something like that, and I said, okay, uh, from the fall months, this was 2012, I will go to Sistema trainings, and in those moments, Moon transiting Saturn set on my moon directly, and I was on the hardest phase of the Sadasati period. At that time, both of my parents had some horrible operations going on. My brother died, and so on. And I went into the Sistema dojo, very great hall, great club. Around 100 people were there, 5, 6 women in total. When there were 30 men, there were three girls, just like that. And those moments were my escapes from reality, and I loved every bruise I have, every hit I have. Sistema is completely different system of fighting when you're flowing, and you're flowing with your enemy, and you're flowing with the event and so on. You should watch the videos about Sistema. Trainings are a bit different. They could be very dangerous because my knee was once hurt so much and deformed for 1 year. I hated them because I couldn't waltz in that period because of my knee. Many times when we had trainings here in the woods, my blood filled the ground, and I got hit many times in my nose, in my face, and so on. But I realized how dangerous men can be, and what are the things I can do to protect myself, and what did I become. And in the meantime, I realized that in Sistema there are no mats in dojo or outside, because if you get hit outside, you can't say, please let me go back to my home and bring a mat with me and my boxing gloves and my head protection and so on. Those things on street, they don't exist. There is a concrete, so the concrete is a dangerous one. And in the meantime, I met many great instructors and senseis coming from all over the world. I met Major Avi Nardia, Israeli officer, who taught me Krav Maga a few times when he was here. Now he's here, and we became friends. Also, then I met Bob Dublinin. He's the guy who runs Southeast Martial Arts Institute in Germany. He taught me about Kali Eskrima and Muay Thai and so many things. And I was forced to watch the film Prince of Ayutthaya, about Japanese guy who is in Southeast Asia and learns Thai box. Great film, bloody film, but great film. And then I met Sonny Puzikas, Spetsnaz officer, who now runs seminars in America. He is very skilled guy. We did 2 day seminar with him called Exploring the Pain. You can imagine what is this. And he stopped the whole seminar once, because from the far in the hall he could see that guy I'm doing exercises with will break my neck, and he stopped everything, and then he explained him about injuries, because we saw some injuries and how people are hurt from stupidity while training, not the outside. And then I met several people more, and we had some lectures about legal issues when it comes to fighting and fighting on the court after, about the knives, about the bone breaking, and about the weapons and so on. We had medical lectures about the importance of training and when to stop training, because if you are training when your body is tired, then you are not building, you are destroying your body. Generally speaking, this was great training lasting for 2 hours with medical researches and so on. and what's going on when your attention is in the other realm, when the real attack is happening, when the gun is here, when the bullet is here, when the knife is here, what's happening with your psyche, psychology, how you are reacting, and so on. And many great men I've met, and we had such experience with our guys and our girls. We even had to be whipped with a whip, and I managed, girls managed to go through this. Uh, Nothing like SM in sex or something like that. We had to stand the pain, and we did stand the pain. And I am not afraid of whipping anymore. But I won't do that, and I won't do that in any case in intimate moments. Why? And at the same time, I started going to Argentinian tango for a few months just to keep me in shape when it comes to dancing. Then I returned to dancing, and then this club fell apart. We had some personal problems. I don't want to talk about that. In those moments, I don't know, 40 years old, and I have several years of fighting and several years of dancing behind me. So I began when I was 36, 37 years old. Now I'm 44, and I'm very ashamed to admit this, but many people consider me as a great fighter. No, I'm not. I'm not fighter at all, and because in the last 1 year I didn't hit anyone, I forgot everything.